If this circle represents all of the open defecation that happens in the world, this is the fraction that happens in India. And this is the fraction that happens only in rural India. 65% of rural Indians defecate in the open. So what that means is that most of the open defecation that happens in the world happens in rural India, and most rural Indians defecate in the open. Every day, 500 million people in villages in India go in the fields rather than use a toilet or a latrine. That's bigger than the population of the United States. If this circle represents all of the open defecation that happens in the world, this is the fraction that happens in India. And this is the fraction that happens only in rural India. 65% of rural Indians defecate in the open. So what that means is that most of the open defecation that happens in the world happens in rural India, and most rural Indians defecate in the open. Every day, 500 million people in villages in India go in the fields rather than use a toilet or a latrine. That's bigger than the population of the United States.
We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2, you're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of our 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Were y'all able to hear that? My God, am I already having technical issues? I kept trying to come onto the screen and it just would not allow me to share it. Y'all were able to hear it from the very top, Ivy Dreams. Hi, Gwen XOXO. I see you, family. I sure hope so. I realized I wasn't on the stage. I kept trying to share it for my intro. Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. Thank you guys for being here for the 5th part of this series and the last part, because this has been a long one. We're going to get through it. I hope that you got to see what I shared at the very intro. If you're just arriving, you may not have. And I really think it bears repeating because, yeah, I'm here to help you understand what our government is doing and who they're trying to replace and erase us with. And what I shared with you at the top was a portion of a TEDx conversation. I don't even know the sister's name, but Arthur Watkins, shout out to him. He shared this in X, and it's mind-boggling how, what's the word I'm looking for? Barbaric. I don't really know the word I'm looking for. These Indians are in India. You're talking 1.5 times our population defecate in the streets. And this is who has the unmitigated gall to come here and talk down to us as Negroes, deny us opportunity, and really try to pretend that we are lower than them. We don't defecate in the streets. So let me show it one more time because I know that Ivy Dreams saw it. I just don't know if the rest of you did. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I forgot to send this out. I'm going to take a second to do that while I share that video. Oh, I think I closed it out. I'm not going to belabor and try to find it again. But yeah, I want you to understand, these different cultures and the mindset, as we learned yesterday, that they're bringing into our country, that our ancestors built with their very lives, and now are giving position, power, our reparations, our taxes, our Social Security, a seat at the hiring tables with a lot of these companies where, there's opportunity that's being denied the Negro. And so, yeah, I wanted to bring these things to you to open up your eyes so you can clearly understand that you're superior in every way. And we just need to own that and walk upright in it. So I don't want to belabor. Let me get back to where we left off yesterday. I'm going to show a few more slides and then we'll get back to the video and pick that up and then I'll pray us out, okay? Let's see here. So let me share my screen. Hold on, stand by. So you guys can keep it lit in the chat. I'll be over to read your comments momentarily. Let me make sure y'all can see this. Hold on. Okay, that's pretty good. So Arthur had mentioned in one of his X posts on December 30th that American freedmen voted for Trump and voted the couch because of illegal immigration and legal immigration exploits. These are policies that were an issue for our neighborhoods. We took the sacrifice because the Democratic Party played in our face for 4 years. If they do not fix, hold on. There was more to it. The Democratic Party, okay, if they do not fix it, they will start losing locally. Well, let me do a stop here. They must lose locally. This is why I keep discouraging people from voting the couch. Now, I don't want to be critical of those who vote the couch because clearly, staying out of the race this particular time was beneficial to make a way for Trump to win. So I'm not trying to say that voting the couch didn't contribute in some way towards Trump's victory. What I'm trying to express is that when you vote the couch, you're not showing up to vote locally which is where your politics are really happening. Okay. Now, if you were going to show up and vote locally and still vote the demon rats, then it's a good thing that you stayed home. I just got off the phone with one of my staunchest comrades in the movement, Asan Powell. She mentioned her county in Maryland turned red thanks to the people who didn't turn out, who would otherwise have voted Democrats. What I'm trying to express is that voting the couch is playing roulette, because out here in California, they literally were allowing, Gavin Newsom, our governor, outlawed voter ID. So any illegal could have picked up my mail, turned out to the polls, and voted on my behalf because no ID was required. All they had to do was give my name and address. And so that's what I mean by roulette. I say we have to be very intentional with the missiles we return because of the way the demon rats have leveled all of their missiles towards the Negro and have been doing that for 70 years, all the way to bottom caste in the country of our ancestors. And the bottom line is, this is our country. Our ancestors built this country. And so we need to fight for our country with the only weapon we've got left, the only commodity we've got left, which is our vote. Back to Arthur's comments. The Democratic Party knows we are the second largest ethnic group in America, but they treat us like we are the smallest because of how they use race categories. They didn't want to add a separate box for American freedmen because they believe that delineating us from the population with immigrant backgrounds would fragment us. They sabotaged California reparations. They forced illegals into our neighborhoods. They talk down to us like dogs. Well, let me go back to what he said and let's unpack this, okay? They want you to believe that you're smaller because they understand that there's power in numbers. So if they can get into your psyche to make you believe that you are smaller than all these other immigrant groups, which is not true. We've been here the longest. How in the world is that going to happen? We didn't abort all of our children. Okay. So you got to ask yourself, you see, it's time for us to use critical thinking skills. You've got to ask yourself, if we've been here since before Columbus, how in the world are you going to flood this country when you just put the gas on? You just put the gas on for immigration, right? That just happened during Joe Crow's administration. We've been here since before Columbus, okay? We've been here since before Columbus. You mean to tell me that you've actually brought enough legal immigrants into this country to outnumber the Negro freedmen, and yet we are still the swing vote? So some things don't add up, right? It's just not logical to think that we didn't swing the outcome of the demon rats this election cycle. But they don't ever want you to believe you've got that kind of power. So they're going to lie to you. They're going to gaslight you. They're going to propagandize and make you think that you're shrinking. But then you have to ask yourself, how in the world have we been 13% since the 70s? Well, I've shared with you in the past that that is the goal, right? The goal of the OMB and why we were denied delineation was because of Mark Morial from the National Urban League. He's an immigrant. And after we had been to all the hearings for a year, back and forth, 20,000 of us screaming for delineation so that we don't have to be masked in the nonsense that's going on with all these other immigrant groups, which I'm going to raise on tomorrow's broadcast, 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. We've been asking for that, and Mark Morial shows up after the hearings, gets an extension to plead his case, and he sits up here and prevails on the argument that it's discriminatory against other immigrants to not be able to identify as Black Americans. Now, the OMB being complicit with the government in flat blackness to our ethnocide was all too happy to acquiesce Mark Morial at the expense of the Negro freedmen. Why is that? because flat blackness is our ethnocide as intended. I've shared with you all a number of times about the egregious racial wealth gap in terms of household dollars. Okay, of the 3 trillion household dollars Black folks share collectively, that's the Negro and the melanated immigrants, 2.93 trillion is shared by about 14%. Less than 700 billion since the pandemic is shared by 86%. Well, if you understand the numbers, then you understand that the immigrant population is around 14% of our population. So they're the ones that are really, by and large, some exceptions, sharing in the 2.93 trillion. And the Negro is a portion of that 86% that shares in less than 700 billion. That's why you can't sit up here and believe the hype that if you just stop buying weaves and Jordans, that you could close a racial wealth gap in household dollars by the hundreds of trillions shared by white folks and white identifying immigrants. The top 1% holds the majority of the wealth in this country. And so all these little boycotts don't even matter. You know, not spending here, not spending there. I mean, you can do it for your own personal gain, but that's not how our collective is living. Our collective is using whatever money they can earn for survival. They are scratching and survival. They didn't want to add a separate box for American freedmen. Well, American freedmen is a status. Like handicap is a status. Like obesity is a status. What you're going to hear tomorrow night when you return for my 5 o'clock broadcast on Damn a Not Like Us, They Ain't Us, is a space that Son Powell held in Jake's room tonight. I'm going to bring that over here. We're going to play it and unpack it. But I just got off the phone with her. And what I understand about delineation is that we prevail when we follow 30-20 ban, Black American Negro descendant. Because not everyone is a freedman. Not everyone who was here before Columbus and those who came on the transatlantic slave voyage are freed men, because not all of us were enslaved. There were quite a few Blacks that were free. And so you've got free men and you've got freedmen. And the Negro is what brought us all together as a collective. So yeah, American freedmen doesn't work because it is a status that excludes the people that don't fall under that. And the people that don't fall under that are our people. They were free already. They were never enslaved. And so they have come up, Unity for Our Community has come up with yet another strategy that I'm going to roll out tomorrow about filling in 30-20 banned Black American Negro descendant. And when you do it under ban, it includes those of us who were free and those of us who were freed. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. I'm going to unpack it tomorrow. So we have found another way. If we can get on board as a collective and make this messaging go viral, like we've done reparations, like we did the protest voter strategy, and get everyone to fill in the paperwork as 30-20 banned with a D. That is how we prevail. I think she said the number is 2 million, but we're going to tune into that space tomorrow, and I'm going to share that strategy with all of you, because the bottom line is once we procure everything that we're owed, you're going to need to show proof that you're a part of the band. And the way you start doing that now is to fill in everything 30-20 band. So we'll get into that more tomorrow. But yeah, American freedman doesn't work because it's a status. And We've got to get really specific because the other groups have gotten trillions of dollars for their communities because they've been specific. More on that tomorrow. Let me see what else I want to go over about what he shared. Okay, he said they didn't want to add that separate box for American freedmen because they believe that delineating us from the population with immigrant backgrounds would fragment us. No, 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 no. Flat blackness, men and women, is to our ethnocide. The OMB and our government are complicit. They want black to be couched in a race based on skin tone. And when you do that, the world is none the wiser as they ethnocide us that there's a whole immigrant group that has come here to replace us. So, yeah, they don't want to delineate because they want us gone. If they can get rid of the Negro freedmen the way they attempted to after we fought and won our emancipation, if they can get rid of the Negro freedmen, then that gets rid of the quadrillions they owe us in a justice claim. These people are so heinous that they'd rather erase a whole lineage while the world is none the wiser because you got people with our skin tone in power in the public and private sector. So the world is none the wiser that the Negro descendant no longer exists. Because if you do everything based on skin tone, who would know? Because many of them have our coloring. They don't necessarily have our features, but white folks think all black folks look alike. So it don't really matter. We're the ones that can distinguish the most. But yeah, that's why they don't want delineation, because they want us gone. Just like they did when we fought and won our emancipation. Abe Lincoln was attempting to expatriate us to Liberia and other parts unknown in the world after our ancestors built the wealth of this country with their very lives. That's the kind of government and Office of Management and Budget that you're dealing with. They sabotage California reparations. Flat blackness absolutely did. We fought, won lineage-based reparations, but you have to understand, when you don't show up to vote locally, you get a bunch of immigrants that you've got to beg for your reparations from. And that's what's happened here in California. The Negro is around 3% in the entire state. We're about 2 million. Double that when you include the black immigrants out here. No, we're not 4 million. I don't know what it is. Truthfully, I know we're 2 million, and I know that they make up a large percentage out here as well. But our numbers as Negroes is declining because we refuse to weaponize our vote. We either didn't come out to vote or we kept voting blue no matter who. And that's why we have to leave out of here, because most of our people can't afford to be here. Not with the cost of living, not when the median home price is $1 million. Who knows what it'll be once they get through all this fire nonsense. So yes, reparations was sabotaged, but it will be sabotaged in your states too. It's kind of futile, but go ahead and go through and see what'll happen. You know, maybe you'll have better success, but I knew this as we were coming down the pike when things started happening. The fact that we had to fight for lineage-based reparations was a hint and a half for our asses that this wasn't going to go well. The fact that we turned out the vote to prevent Newsome from being recalled, you can clearly see what we were being used for. So don't allow yourself to be used. Don't allow them to play in your face, okay? They forced illegals into our neighborhoods. Yes, they did. They talk down to us like dogs. Not even do they talk down to us like dogs. They don't even mention us and nothing they're doing politically. They don't come out when the race soldiers execute us with qualified immunity. They cheer. The deputized who murder us are poor. So they get to create us as a bottom caste and then sit back and applaud when we're taken out. Not enough of them are doing time like a Chauvin. And he didn't get enough time for my taste. He shouldn't be protected in the feds. And he should have got far more years. He should have been in there for life without the possibility of parole. They've done that to our innocent. We're literally having to fight for our innocent to be free from executions because the evidence showed that they didn't do whatever they were accused of. So they not only talk down to us like dogs, they don't even acknowledge our existence. They still believe we're 3/5, okay? So I wrote, the demon rats seek to economically genocide us with mass and illegal immigration. That's why I voted for Trump. We'd have been worse off had Kamala won. Not only would they be given Negro jobs, they'd be able to slaughter us like the white folks do. The deputized are now Crayola. So let me move on. Hi, Easy Axe. Hi, Roy Alexander. Hold on, guys. Let folks know I'm over here live. Just give me a second, please. I didn't send out my notification. I see the audience is really light. They're not sending notifications, and they're demonetizing and doing all manner of things to my channel. With the recent TikTok ban, that concerns me a great deal, that this government literally has struck down TikTok. They've literally gotten rid of TikTok. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a huge violation of our First Amendment rights. And if they can do that to TikTok because TikTok refused to sell, why? They've got 170 million people over there. Why would they sell something that they've built up from allowing free speech on their spaces where folks are making money and doing all manner of things? Why would they turn around and then give it to you after Zuckerberg just made a play with the government? He pretty much wants to be able to be the social app of choice. So he was successful in colluding with our government to get rid of TikTok because they refused to sell it to him. He refused to sell it to our government or to the highest bidder. Why? For them to do the same thing they did to us over on Facebook? They get to control the narrative? So no, it's gone. And and now that's concerning because what else is next if we don't comply? More censorship. So I really need to be about building up my own website to house my own material and have you guys come to my own site before this all goes the way of the dodo bird. Just give me a second. I got to let people know I'm over here. Stand by. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Welcome to the live. And if you feel so compelled, bless the broadcast. Yeah, that's how I can sustain the channel, is through your blessings. And I thank you for those who have already blessed the channel. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me go over here and share this real quick with X. People aren't getting their notifications. I beg your patience. And let me share with Facebook. And let me share in a community post. Oh, just a second, guys. Guys and dolls. I meant to do this earlier. Okay, hopefully that'll have a good impact. I might be competing with some other folks because, there's more than just me tonight, but we'll see what happens. And then folks can catch it on in the archives afterwards. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was just saying. Oh, I was talking about the TikTok ban and how Mark Zuckerberg, who sits up here and belly aches that, oh, it was the feds that made me, get rid of all of you who were talking about the Joe Crow administration, who was talking against the pandemic. Yeah, Joe Crow made me get rid of all of you. It costs me 5,000 subs on Facebook and a gang of pictures that I will never be able to get back. But that's just a smokescreen because he had paid millions of dollars to lobby to get TikTok banned because he wants to be, and a lot of those political officials are invested in Facebook. So when you remove the competition, that makes space for Facebook stock to go through the roof, right? And these people get paid. They're all in bed together and they're all working to undermine and get rid of our First Amendment rights and our Second Amendment. So, it's a nightmare right now. So I don't really know. I'm going to really, really work to get my own thing going so that you guys can email me at the reprospect@gmail if you'd like to be included in the notification when my own independent site goes live. I really need to do that. I've been working on that. So if you want to be included in that number, Gmail me at the reprospect. It's scrolling in the bar below and in the description bar. But let's get back to the presentation. Sharing my screen. So Nas had wrote, most people do not know enough. Black Americans have been locked out of big tech by Indians and other foreigners. If we do not fight for our rights, no one will. This is also a very important issue for all American workers because Indians/foreigners are taking all of the jobs. And I responded, they aren't taking all the jobs. They are being given all the jobs by our government and the public-private sectors. This is what's happening in real time. We've got to stop this belief in the immigrants doing anything. They are being given everything, our reparations, our taxes, and our Social Security to replace and erase us. When we wrap our minds around our government's complicity in our ethnocide, then we'll understand the call to return the missile with a protest vote. I don't bring you this news to bring you any type of sadness or gloom and doom like it's hopeless for us. I'm saying that you just need to go about things with your eyes wide open. If you're blessed to have a current position, you may want to be thinking on what can I do secondary in the event this is taken out from under me. Because that's how it happened to us at Wells Fargo. They just started making up things to get rid of us. Especially if you happen to be a single mom or even married. The minute you have children, they started plotting and scheming against you to get rid of you. I lost two very, very close colleagues, one to sarcoidosis and one to an aneurysm, behind the stress of trying to hold on to Wells Fargo when Wells Fargo was clearly working to get rid of us. And when my manager sat me down and shared with me what was coming in terms of how they were going to put me in a pressure cooker with my sales goals, that's when I knew. I asked her to fire me. And you're talking about from a $120K a year job, because I had already bore witness to one 24-year-old friend dying from an aneurysm during the Memorial holiday weekend. And then I decided I've got a daughter I've got to live for. And so that's what they end up doing. They'll make it so uncomfortable for you to be there. They will put such strenuous goals on you while allowing whites and other immigrants to steal from your book of business to pressure you out. And so you don't want to be that beholden to any job. If anything, these videos I'm sharing with you guys, these broadcasts, is so that you can get your plan B together so that you aren't caught blindside and don't have something else. We need that in this current state of what we're undergoing. And we're survivors. We know how to survive. We have a close relationship with the Most High. Many of us do, those of us who are not atheists. And so we know how to turn inward to get the God ideas to manifest whatever we need. Rely on that heavily right now, especially the God idea of something secondary that you can be building on while holding on to your main gig, because you never know when they're going to come through and do a clean sweep of you. And you want to be prepared for that so the bottom doesn't fall out and you don't lose everything you worked so hard for. Let me stop sharing that one. Okay, so, let me share the next one. We're getting through this tonight, y'all. This is it. Okay, I already did that one. I have to close them out. Okay. Okay. Okay, hold on, y'all. Let's see what this one is. Okay. An angry FBA ninja said, "White Americans, the truth is, y'all went along with non-white immigration out of hatred for the FBAs receiving civil rights and affirmative action. You made immigrants the face of civil rights that they did not earn. Now all Americans, both black and white, have been sold out to foreigners." So this reminds me of Whoopi Goldberg in The Color Purple, when she stood up to Mr. before she exit stage left and said, "Everything you've done to me has already been done to you." These white folks plotting and scheming against the Negro has gotten them into the same position, not exactly the same as the Negro, but many of them are fighting for their jobs, and their salaries are now lower than the immigrants. And that's why they're fighting bad. You see, they're going to be all right because they've had over 400 years of robbing, killing, and stealing. It's the Negro that suffers the hardest under legal and illegal immigration. That's why my demand is for a moratorium on mass immigration as well until the Negro is flourishing in the country of our ancestors. Because unlike white folks who can pick up and move anywhere in the world and be okay, that's not true for the Negro. Most folks just want to use us, especially the continent of Africa. They want our American dollars. My daughter went with her father and his family to South Africa for the Christmas holiday. And she says, "Mom, you would not believe how the blacks, the people that are us, are living in shanties. Right next to it are the coloreds. And that would be the Indians, the Asians, people like that. The people of color that are here in the States. Their houses look far more improved. And then right next to that is where the white folks live, high off the freaking hog." So anytime they want to take whatever they've amassed from the country and move abroad, they are going to live like kings and queens in the continent of Africa. They want our dollars because they want to use us as a resource to build up what they've run from doing themselves. They've run from their own tribalism. They've run from their own corruption. And they want the Negro welcome back. But if you listen to the videos of the Negroes who have been taken to the cleaners, because when they see us coming, everything goes up on the pricing. And so, yeah, white folks are going to be all right, irrespective of how they've worked feverishly to undermine the Negro. And the Negro's going to be all right. And we're grateful that the revolution is being social mediaized. That's what's happening in real time right now. That's what I'm doing. That's what the grassroots and the soil is doing right now, is revolutionizing. The revolution is being social mediaized. Listen, I can't go in these streets of California where they dominate and have any real movement in what I'm seeking to do in terms of enlightening and educating our people. I come to the internet because I can reach hundreds to thousands versus right here in my own home state. So yeah, white folks are now wailing and gnashing their teeth, mad at Elon for telling them to go up themselves. He's been really belligerent and indignant, but that's who you are. Because see, he's not even African. He's Dutch, who was raised in South Africa. So he doesn't give two hoots about these crackers that wanted our demise. There's a real big boomerang. Everything they've done to us is now happening to them. And Trump is in bed with the money. Trump used them the way the demon rats used us to get into power. But like I said, Trump getting rid of illegals out of our communities, I think he's starting first in Chicago. I have to do some research before I can bring that broadcast. But yeah, the bottom line is that our collective, 80% of our collective don't have the advanced degree, so they're not competing on that scale as white folks may be for these high-end executive level kind of jobs, these multiple six-figure jobs. Our collective is not really competing for that. So my vote was so that our collective could survive it. Our collective could do the trades, right? Our collective can get work so that they can find a sweet honey to build with and make some Negro babies. I'm all about preservation of the lineage. That's what I'm on. And I'm going to bring a whole segment on. I'm still working with the title, but it's going to be something like Negro marriage and Negro babies is revolutionary. Something like that. I'm still working with that. And I'll be bringing that broadcast to promote Negro love. Okay. So yeah, they shot themselves in the foot when they did what they did. And that's a beautiful thing to see them wail and gnash their teeth. I'm just sipping on my tea and eating my popcorn. Okay. Let's share the next thing. So, Robbie Salve, now I stopped messing with him when he got rid of he and what's her name, Brianna Gray. They were getting she was a part of the Hill, but when she started rocking really hard for Palestine, Robbie and her were like at each other's jugulars. It felt like every broadcast. Ultimately, they terminated Brianna Gray. So I really stopped messing with the Hill then because I really couldn't stand Robbie. To me, he's a devout racist. So he says companies should hire the best workers and schools should admit the best students. No more affirmative action. No more government mandated diversity and inclusivity. No artificial caps on talent. What's true in the race preferences debate is also true in the immigration debate. Nas says no. Real American citizens should be first in all aspects of American society. We did not build America so that we can endlessly compete with foreigners in our own country. If a U.S. company disagrees, they can move to China, take their chances with zero control of their business. And I stated on top of that this all started with NAFTA. This all started with NAFTA. So, of course, since we built the wealthiest country in the world, these businesses that were outsourced now want to come back into the States, but they don't want to pay the American salaries to keep up with the American cost of living. So they want to be here and enjoy the fruits of this country, but they seek to replace us with the immigrant class. Under the H-1B visa, these immigrants have no protections. And if they quit their jobs due to mistreatment and racism or whatever they undergo, they're going to lose their visa to stay in the country. That means they can work them like slaves. They can treat them like dogs. They can pay them, less than a livable wage and have them living 12 to a house and all this kind of nonsense. And so they decided they want the best of both worlds. We'll just replace the American, especially the Negro worker, because it's been happening to us far longer than the white folks. It's just now starting to impact them. And like I said, when you've killed for and stolen everything, you're not impacted to the degree that the Negro is. You never will be. You never will be. Because you've absorbed and consumed all the wealth. These people down here, the ones who are going to suffer from these fires, are the Negroes who were holding on to their homes for generations in Altadena since the 60s. I don't know, because the insurance was pulling out, because they saw this coming. It was in the data. I've already shared the data with you in a previous broadcast. When you see insurance leaving, we've got a problem. And these Mickey Fickies chose to use that money to erase and replace Negroes out the state of California than to invest in their infrastructure. But that's a whole nother topic for another episode, okay? I'm not going to get distracted. I'm just trying to let you know that in the beginning, these jobs were outsourced. So we really didn't see what was happening until they started flooding the country more recently with the Joe Crow administration, because this was not happening under Trump. Trump was against the H-1B visa. And once he got in bed with money, Elon, who pretty much paid for his election, as a businessman, he even used immigration and even used H-1Bs. He admits to that. But in the beginning, his first term, he was opposed so white men could get back to work. But now he's in bed with Elon and Vivek. And, is all for the H-1B visa. And he's in there now. There's nothing those people can do but cry and wail and gnash their teeth. Next slide. Okay, so this is the one the video that we're going to watch momentarily. We're going to watch the balance of the video, okay? India operates on two fuels, connection and corruption. This is the exact culture they use to scam the H-1B visa system. Thanks at Peter Keones for sharing. This is from Leonarda Joni, who posted this in X. And that's how I happened upon this video, half of which I shared with you yesterday. But clock that T, connection and corruption. As we learned yesterday, they think that to be upstanding, to have values, to be respectful, to be honest, to have trust amongst your fellow man is a sign of weakness. And so this is who they are bringing into the country. People that operate on two fuels. Who are you connected to and how corrupt can you go? So they're getting in bed with the very wanton white supremacists in this country. They're cut from the same cloth, connection and corruption. And that's who they're importing from all of these groups. Folks that don't mind stabbing you in the back. Folks that don't give a damn if you lose everything. They're savage with it. Moving right along. You have to know who the enemy is. So, Rupa, I think I shared this yesterday. Yeah, I did. In the namesake of time, I'm not going to repeat post. If you didn't watch the video yesterday, you should really watch that one. It was rich. Chock full of news you can use. Okay, so why, Mama Jersey says, why can't Atlanta be Atlanta, a Black American Mecca? This is why Black Americans are delineating and disaggregating. Why does it have to be something else? And I wrote, economic genocide is encroaching on the South fast. This is really, really bad. And if the South doesn't become Chicago and show up to every city council meeting and run the soil in every office, every branch of government, and really, really fight, okay? Y'all got to fight, because as my title states, as the nation becomes Cali, where are Negroes going and with what? It is not going to be good if the South, where most of our people are fleeing, is controlled by immigrants. You already see what's happening in New York. You see what's happening in Chicago. You see what's happening in California. That's a hint and a half of y'all's asses to do something now. Don't wait until you're taken over, because you got nothing coming. They're going to treat you as if you're not a non-factor. Trust me on that. I'm living it. I'm not gaslighting you. You got to seize control where you still have a majority and take it over and be at every city council meeting, especially the boomers who are retired. A lot of the people in Chicago are of the older persuasion. They're either in business for themselves, or they're boomers, or they're from the silent gen. They're the ones that are showing up. That has to happen in every southern state where we've got a majority, or large percentages even, because it is a total nightmare when you allow them to take it over. You really become a non-factor. It's rather scary to see it encroaching on the South as fast as it is. So Neil wrote, effectively made it impossible for me to get a job is a good phrasing for I didn't know how to code and could not crack tech interviews. And interviews are live, FT2F, so coding cannot be skipped or delegated. Nas responded, we have people embedded at big tech companies. We know that Indians in middle management rubber stamp other H-1B Indians. We also know that coding tests are being taken by non-applicants. Before that, friends of current employees in big tech got to skip coding tests. So what he's explaining here is the game. Nas is calling out this Neil person for pretending like we aren't educated enough to capture and sustain these jobs. I've already shared with you on many of these series in this broadcast, these people are not smarter than us. I've already shared with you at the top of the broadcast how about 500 million of them, 60% of their population is still defecating in the streets in India. How can these people be this savage and yet smarter than you? They're not. And so they'll gaslight you and make you think it's you. They'll make you think you're not smart enough to secure these positions when this is not just happening in tech. This is happening in the public sector out here in California. One of my friends holds a department. She works in the public sector as an accountant. Her whole department has been taken over by Indians that treat her lower than well poop. It is a nightmare what she has to endure mentally from the type of discrimination that comes from these immigrants that don't give a damn, that will cut your throat and eat your young. This is who is taking control of not just our politics, but also our public and private sectors. And this is who the Negro is now being forced to ask for a job from. It's despicable. No matter how degreed you are in tech, you got to create your own tech company to create work for yourself, because they're not hiring us like that. And you can see the numbers and the data in the other broadcast in this series. Next slide. So Dewan B, shout out, peep this job posting for H-1B visa programs. Basketball coach and professor of Black American music. This H-1B program is here to replace American jobs on all levels. And that's what I've been trying to stress to you all. They sit up here and try to pretend that it's just tech. But here you go. Under myvisajobs.com. You guys go over there and check it out. Assistant professor of electrical engineering. Assistant professor of music. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I don't know if that's any better. Let me put my glasses on, y'all. It's a little small. And I don't want to take it out of frame. Assistant professor of electrical engineering. Assistant professor of music. Black American and or Afro-diasporic music. Assistant sailing coach. Is that what that says? Hold on. Instructor of computer science. Assistant sailing coach. All of these jobs are under myvisajobs.com. That's what I'm trying to share with you guys. This is not just the tech jobs. That's where they want you focused. So you can sit up here and say, oh, it's not affecting all the jobs, just tech. No, sir, no, ma'am. So here, let's look at these salaries. College of Charleston assistant sailing coach is earning $44,000 a year. You scroll down. Medical University of South Carolina and affiliates is paying $111,000 for an assistant professor and director of digital lab innovation. Accenture LLP, business architecture manager, $156,000. So they keep trying to make you believe that everybody is being paid dirt wages. Not everyone is. These salaries are double and triple the median income of Negroes throughout the country. We've got to wake up and smell the tea leaves over here. Oh, God. Okay. So this is yet another slide from Concerned Citizen in Oslo, Norway. Boeing makes an emergency landing and skids off the runway. There is something going seriously wrong with planes everywhere. Oh, shoot. I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to go. Okay. So, Darenick Bird shares Boeing hired all those engineers from India, and now their planes are falling apart. And I share with you on yesterday's broadcast a segment of the Business Standard that dealt with this issue. It required a subscription. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying excessively for these things. So if you want to look up the Business Standard, you can see the article where these software engineers were paid $9 an hour. Okay, hold on. Let's share the next slide. Okay, something's going on. I don't see the rest of my slides. Hold on, guys. I'm afraid to play this one because I think that they're going to strike it. I might play this last, y'all. It is hilarious. Oh my goodness. I want to give y'all a little tickle before we pray out. But it has music in back of it, and I don't want them to mess with my broadcast. Hold on. So we may share that one. It is hilarious. I really want to share it with y'all. I can't wait. Okay, we'll do it towards the end. If I have to edit it out that way, it'll be on the end. Okay, so we'll go back to that to give you a nice little funny, make you laugh. Hold on. Let's see what this one is. So so this is more that supports how these people are not they're not employable, they lack skills. They sending us their trash is what Butterfly Life is saying. They aren't employable and they lack skills, but the only difference is they are getting trained to do entry-level jobs. Why Indian engineers are unemployable. So there's something you can look up. And then this here, hard and soft skills which Indian graduates lack. Every year, many graduates hit the job market, but only a few of them are successful in grabbing their dream job. According to Tech Mahindra CEO CP Gurnani, 94% of Indian IT graduates are not fit for hiring as they lack skills in them. Not only IT, the matter is the same with other sectors as well. So this just proves more of my case that they're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. This is being used to ethnocide you. You can't make money. You can't earn a living. You can't feed your families. You can't support yourself. That's to your ethnocide. Economic genocide is what this is called. Watson speaking, guest to the show. She says neither Elon, Patrick Bet-David, or Vivek would have hit their maximum potential in their home countries of South Africa, Iran, or India. They are who they are because millions of Americans were taxed enough already to build the infrastructure they leverage. You're welcome. And she's speaking absolute truth here. They would have not been able to amass the wealth they've had in this country in their own countries. Our government has been giving them our reparations, our taxes, and our Social Security to help them be great in this country. She's absolutely right. They are who they are because of the Negro, whose ancestors built this country with their very lives. Next. Let me see here. I like this. I think I'm going to play it for this one as well. Why not? Hold on, guys.
He spent 2 months in prison for. This is one of the most badass black dudes you've never heard of. He was an aviator. He was an inventor. He was an engineer, and he was an entrepreneur. He spent 2 months in prison for bootlegging so he could make money to keep his auto repair shop open. His repair shop was so successful that he started Head Motors in 1921, and that became the first automobile company in America to be owned, designed, and built by black Americans. He co-founded the first ever Black American Automobile Racing Association. He invented an automatic stabilizer to help keep planes level in flight. He used mirrors to create a cloaking system for U.S. Navy vessels in World War I to protect them from U-boat attacks. This dude is so gangster, he patented the process of using pressure jets to de-ice airplane wings and propellers. And that technology is still used to this day. Lucian Arthur Hedden came into this world in 1879 in North Carolina, and he created.
Not sure what happened, y'all.
He was an inventor. He was an engineer, and he was an entrepreneur, and he created.
Well, for some reason, it's buffering right there. Sorry, guys, I don't know what's happening to that and why it's buffering, but you get the idea. You come from greatness. Walk upright in it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They're liars. And thank you to our white ally for bringing that to our attention, our awareness. Okay. So, Leonardo Joni is highlighting that Vivek Ramaswamy is literally an IPO scammer. Acquires Alzheimer's drug called Axovant for $5 million in 2014. Drug had already failed phase 2 trials in 2010. Vivek's own mother, Geetha Ramaswamy, conducts new phase 2 trial in 2015, which is conveniently successful. $350 million IPO in 2015, where Vivek cashes out. Stock plummets 75% by September 2017 after phase 3 trial failure. After more trial failures, 99% loss in value and company name change. Connection and corruption. And let me just say allegedly, because I haven't fact-checked that. Leonardo Joni, although I believe it, Leonardo Joni, the reason American kids can never run a $2 billion scam comes down to the C word, culture. Think back to American TV shows. Those mothers always tell their children, don't lie, don't cheat. In India, our mothers conduct fake clinical trials to help us defraud investors. This is who y'all are dealing with. This is the new America. And if we aren't aware, we will be eaten alive. When you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You have to teach your children as well. You have to educate them on people that may look like them in terms of skin tone, but who are as racist, if not more so, and will slit their throats than the Europeans, the antebellum whites, and the Ellis Island whites, because wanton white supremacy is now Crayola in this country. So this really pissed me off when Laura Loomer made this post. This is what she said. She said, our country was built by white Europeans, actually not third world invaders from India. Now, Laura Loomer is in tight with Trump, okay? She's kind of one of these white girl. Well, I don't even know if she's white necessarily. She looks, I don't know. Maybe she's Indian. I don't know. I think she's white. Anyway, our country. Okay, so she basically, in her anger and frustration with Vivek and Elon, she came out and said our country was built by white Europeans. Now, y'all know the reparationist perspective had to call her out. I said at Laura Loomer, Bish, what? You immigrant, murderous descendant of slave owners benefited from reparations, Homestead Act, class-based policies. You state you don't owe us lineage-based cash reparations because y'all are descendants, all the while benefiting. Y'all ain't built shite. Thieves. So, yeah, I had to tell that to TR Ruth. I just couldn't sit by and allow her to get that off. Okay? There was no way. And this is called revisionist history. They like to believe they did the very things we accomplished. While giving everything diabolical about us, they like to displace that on us. Okay, so Dap Ado's tribe shared this picture of Vivek. End affirmative action. America is a land of meritocracy, he states. And so here's this picture that Dap showed. The Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowships for New Americans supported Vivek at Yale Law School. He graduated in 2013. So basically what these immigrants love to do is they love to use our 14th Amendment, our affirmative action, our civil rights to get advancement in the country of our ancestors. And when they get at the top and have robbed and schemed and, cheated their way to the top, weaponizing our Holocaust, then they like to close the door. He wants to sit up and say end affirmative action, which they've successfully done. But you have to understand affirmative action hasn't helped us since the boomers benefited. They didn't fight to keep that gate up, to make sure the 14th Amendment was exclusive to us. They fought for their own individualism, their own housing and things of this nature, their own pensions, and did not fight to make sure those of us that came behind them would be secure. It's tragic what has happened. Dr. Martin Luther King said it best. He has integrated us into a burning building, a burning house, and that's what's happened. And our boomers are still voting blue no matter who, not all. Bloomers and silent Gen, okay, are still voting for the very things that keep us bottom caste. They never taught us how to weaponize our votes. And so that's what the grassroots and the soil is trying to prevent now. We're mostly comprised of Gen X. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Gen X. We're mostly comprised of Gen X. We're the ones with the education and the experience across industries. Many of us are secure, and as secure can be, we're house secure or, job secure. And so we use our voice to fight for the least of us. That's what y'all do when you get the education over here. You take this back to help the least of you. You listen to these broadcasts, and many of you have emailed me what you've done with this information to make a difference in your communities. But this is what they like to do. These immigrants love to weaponize our never-ending Holocaust with the help of our government for their comeuppance at our expense and then want to close the door. So just because you ended affirmative action doesn't mean that we aren't, by and large, the biggest collective that's being discriminated against in the workforce. It's called, now you have to know Spanish just to get a job interview. And when you speak it as fluently as Pedro, you don't have the complexion for hire. The immigrant does, but not you. So that was DAP ADOS tribe. Shout out to him, calling out Vivek for doing what they know to do. Let me get in, let me get all of what is owed the Negro and close the door on them so that they don't ever get a leg up. but affirmative action went to white women, LGBTQ, white men, and immigrants. I don't know of many blacks that are benefiting from that these days. Well, it's gone now because immigrants got in bed with Ed Bloom to get rid of affirmative action, but it's no skin off your nose. Neither is DEI. DEI was another affirmative action meant to benefit who? White women, LGBTQ, white men, and immigrants. It was never intended to benefit us. And if you got data to the contrary that the Negro freedmen benefited large part from affirmative action or DEI, put it in the chat. I can't find the stats because of flat blackness, and it just doesn't exist. When you guys are crying because Ed Bloom shuts down grants for black women, why? If they can't tell you the percentage of the Negro descendant that is benefiting from said grants, there's no need to cry in your beer that Ed Bloom is tearing it down, because I can bet your bottom dollar it's mostly melanated immigrants cosplaying Black Americanists for those grants that we'll never see. So we've got to once again use our critical thinking skills. Always ask, who are you? And always ask for data. Don't just take their word for it that it's something that's going to benefit your group, because by and large, it does not. Next slide. So this is dealing with Better.com CEO's infamous firings in the U.S. added 1,000 employees in India. So when Better.com Chief Executive Officer Vishal Garg fired 900 staffers on Zoom late last year, the cuts essentially moved a larger portion of its workforce offshore. The online mortgage lender had been aggressively hiring in both India and the U.S. for most of 2021 to try and keep pace with a wave of refinancing. But a recent regulatory filing shows that Garg's infamous Zoom cuts, which followed the U.S. Federal Reserve's sudden switch on interest rates, fell much harder stateside than in lower wage India. So I want to share that video with you as well. It's quick. They literally fired 900 Americans on a Zoom and gave 1,000 jobs to low wagers in India. This is what's happening with the black vote, voting Democrat, voting blue no matter who. The Republicans are not absolved. But I'm telling you, the Democrats have done nothing but to undermine us and to set us up for genocide, economic genocide. That's what they've done. So let me see. Hopefully the video's coming up next. Hold on, y'all. Is this it? Well, this isn't it, but we'll do it. Hopefully, it's in one of the last few slides, and then we'll get to the video to finish it out. It's about 20 minutes. So Elon says, the reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, with government money, that's with our reparations. That's how that was built, y'all. And hundreds of other companies that made America strong is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and bleep yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Now that Elon is president, right? Hashim Mtuzi, PMP. Elon Musk didn't come to the U.S. on an H-1B. He came illegally, scamming his way in on a student visa F1 he never used, then violated its terms to work. His constant lies about his origin story aren't just to lecture folks. there to protect himself from deportation and avoid the massive fines and asset seizures that could follow an investigation into his immigration fraud. Well, the bottom line is Elon has our government in his back pocket. They gave him our reparations to be as big as he has become, to sit up here and boldly tell Americans, the white ones in particular, to go F themselves in the face. These are the monsters white folks have created, hating on the Negro. Boom, a rain. I got nothing. Okay, hold on, guys. Is this it? The H-1B backlash that will change Black America's future. I don't think, in this video, I tackle the debate surrounding H-1B visas and America's growing need for skilled STEM workers. Oh, that's Tim Black, so I don't want to necessarily share his video. But basically, he's doing as I'm doing. We must continue to press forward with getting education in STEM and continue to push, because that's where the big money is, as I shared with you in at the top of the broadcast yesterday. There's big money in tech, and Blacks can flourish in tech, but we got to find each other. We've got to network. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to find that one video. Okay, I may have to bring it tomorrow. It's not open for some reason. Let me share my last couple of slides and we'll get into the video. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. When you like the video, it pushes it up in the algorithm so others can find it. Thank you in advance. So James Richardson III says, I'm in California and young brothers who've got computer science degrees can't get a call back, let alone an interview. So they go to work in fields that they're overqualified for. This was planned when they took trades out of school my freshman year in 90. Same year H-1B visa was created. Absolutely. So what James Richardson III is sharing is true. They took out industrial arts. They took out home economics. These are things that we grew up with that enabled us to go right into the workforce. I went to a vocational high school where every trade, business, auto mechanic, beauty school, carpentry, nursing, all of these jobs that pay lucratively was being offered in the high schools. When you went in as a freshman, you got an option to choose between a few majors so that you could sample the ones that piqued your interest. By the time you became a sophomore, you were being prepped. You had to declare a major. Mine was business. I declared a business major at 15 years old and was fortunate enough to secure work at 15 years old with General Motors. I went to school 2 weeks out of the month, and I went to work 2 weeks out the month, the other 2 weeks, for 11 months out of the year. I did that all the way up until senior year. Now, at that time, you could choose a college preparatory track, or you could choose to just accept whatever offer came from whomever you were employed by and transition right into the workforce, right out of high school. So because that was a successful model for Blacks, they got rid of it. And that's what James is speaking to here. They get rid of it. And even if they still have it, you can't even get a call back. And now they're putting other conditions in there, like you have to know how to speak Spanish, even though you don't even use Spanish in your capacity. This is the discrimination that's going on against the Negro that's causing economic genocide. And this is what happens when we don't weaponize our vote and we don't run for office. We get taken over by immigrants. Crayola wanton white supremacist. Okay, Mark Stevenson says, let's see, open this up some more. Watching white folks and East Indians battle it out on this app is must-see TV. For years, both have used DEI and affirmative action the most, but fought against it because it was perceived as giving Black folks an advantage in college admissions. But since the battle now is over tech jobs and we only represent about 2% of the field, we can't be used as pawns in this fight. And I so love it. And I said, they weaponized our never-ending Holocaust for their comeuppance on our entitlements, then rescinded our entitlements as the way to shut the door on our progress to render us a permanent bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their very lives. Now they are at war. Boomerang. Let me see. Black artists have waited long. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to see if I want to read this article. Well, this article is called Black Artists Have Waited Long Enough for IP Reparations by Al-Mutada Smith. ARS counsels Al-Mutada Smith says that a California commission and a bill introduced in the U.S. Congress to study reparations are a good conversation starter, but they need to specifically consider copyright violations against BIPOC artists and right the wrongs of the past. I don't think I want to read anything about BIPOC right now. I'll read it and see if it's something I choose to bring to you. Okay, so let's do this. All right, let me share. This is the balance of the video that we started yesterday. And then what I'll do is talk in between, when thoughts come to me, and then I'll come over to read your comments and pray us out. Stand by.
We were pulled over by the police.
Uh-oh.
It is an incredible way to travel and have a company of pets.
I get to stay anywhere in the world.
To material benefits. The only thing, they create never-ending emotionalism, fruitless conflicts, and intellectual inbreeding in those ghettos in the Western society.
Hold on.
When I was in...
I've got to make sure the captions are on. Excuse me. I don't know why the subtitles went off. Just a second.
Smells and noise and chaos. They desperately need those smells and chaos and a constant hustle and bustle. They create never-ending emotionalism, fruitless conflicts, and intellectual inbreeding in those ghettos in the Western society. When I was in the Manchester Business School, we were given the fob, the electronic fob to enter the university whenever we wanted to, 24 hours a day. The fellow immigrants I talked with, we always wondered if British were so stupid that they trusted us. This was so unusual, so completely unusual for us. Most of these people, however, most of these immigrants would never try to grasp the emotional significance of trust and gratitude. Worse, they discovered as time passed by that complaining often led to material benefits. The only thing they genuinely cared for in the multicultural West. Once a friend of mine and I went for a drive in Manchester. My friend had had a couple of drinks too many. He ran a red light. We were pulled over by the police. I was completely stunned by the respect with which the police treated my friend. In India, the police would have humiliated and exploited even the passengers who had no business in the game. Abusing and exploiting the weak was and is a way of life in India. Of course, because my friend had high alcohol level, he was arrested. The policeman who arrested him said that instead of leaving me on the highway, he would be happy to give me a ride to the police station if I wanted to do something else from there on. I said, yes, I will come with you. So I sat next to the policeman in the car. Now, this was a year into my life in the United Kingdom, but I was emotionally overwhelmed. That on the way to the police station, I talked with him, this police guy, how the same situation would have turned out in India. The cycle of abuse and exploitation and humiliation they would have inflicted on the driver and the passengers. Now, those days, I used to live in a very high crime area of Manchester. I had no money. The police would follow me late at night they would just follow me while I walked. I asked this policeman who was driving me to the police station, why did they never stop me to ask me questions on what I was doing? And he told me that they followed me to ensure my safety, but more importantly, they had no authority to stop me without a legitimate cause. For the first time in my life, I was beginning to grasp the British respect for personal space. Now, my intention was not to manipulate the policeman at that time. But after making my friends, what he did was he got my friend to sit for an hour or two to sober up. And without charging him, he let us go. I began to realize over a period of time that while those in power in the United Kingdom often applied the law with flexibility, considering the spirit behind it, I guess the policeman realized that we were decent fellows. He did not really want to pursue that anymore. In India, every single law is wielded as a tool for exploitation and predation. There's no exception. Now, I will soon elaborate on how the positive aspects that the West contributed to India have been all perverted. So we often talk about how prosperity and education will actually benefit these poor countries. That's a myth. That's fallacious. It does not work, and I will expand on that. But the problem is that how do you change the underpinning irrationality and amorality of those people? How do you remove the operating system of magical thinking and implant that mind with rational thinking? And because British are no longer in charge, the situation has continued to worsen.
You know, I know they were messing with the water.
Hello?
Letting reserves go.
Statistics fail to resonate in the Indian psyche. There is no sense of gray area among Indians. Everything is perceived as black or white, with no appreciation for nuance. This lack of proportionality leads to indecisiveness and inability to value things. In the end, unrestrained emotions drive their lives, even of the intelligent people. I carried the same, a part of the same mindset with me when I moved to the UK. Realigning my thinking with reason, morality, and Western values was a Sisyphean task. In India, I attended one of the top engineering colleges and believed myself to be very creative, decisive, and well-grounded. But as I started witnessing social interactions in Manchester and behaviors of people in the United Kingdom, I started to realize that even a grocery shop operator had more confidence and was more decisive. I realized my mind was clouded with confused thinking, conflicting motivations which were implanted in me as growing up, and rules lacking a principled foundation. Now imagine working on that kind of mind. Imagine the layers and layers of confused worldviews, behavioral patterns, and dishonest scheming tendency your upbringing in India ingrains you in with. Despite my best intentions, shaking them off and rewiring my thinking took decades, not years, decades. Even if I believed that something was good, it was often still, even if a belief was still good, it was often still based on irrational or magical thinking principles, if I can call those principles. An erroneous belief I became aware of and tried to change clashed with other deeply ingrained beliefs and behavioral patterns. It was a Sisyphean task. It was like trying to change a broken brick in a castle of my beliefs and worldviews without destabilizing the entire structure. However, with time and consistent effort, I noticed that I started to sleep better and felt mentally freer despite facing severe financial crisis and often going hungry. My body started to change, and the mental cloud that had clogged my thoughts began to lift. A reassuring sense that those around me had my back was immensely helpful. Now remember, in India, your family and friends are your biggest enemies. Strangely,
can you imagine your family and your friends being your biggest enemies? If your family and your friends are your biggest enemies, how much less do they think of the Negro? Wow.
Chronic stress that afflicted me started to fade away as well. India continues to be one of the most stressed countries on the planet. Most of the third world countries are. My grandmother told me two things which I thought were very backward looking, something that I have changed my views on, and I have come to side with her ways of thinking. She believed that some people needed to stay on the edge of starvation because if given more, they would create problems.
Wow.
Despite being one of the most egalitarian people I knew.
This is true of Americans when it comes to the Negro. They deny us of reparations because they know what we did without it before in creating about 50 Black Wall Streets in this country that they decimated. This is their biggest fear. It'll be problematic for us to be self-sustaining, for us to flourish, because capitalism requires a bottom caste, and this country has designated the Negro as the permanent bottom caste as we fight to get up off the bottom.
Befriending her chauffeur and tailor, she would remind me that not everyone deserved a seat at the table unless he was truly fit for it. Human rights.
And being truly fit for a seat at the table is subjective and left to people who hate us. Which is why we must create our own tables.
This is a Western concept that is incomprehensible to Indians. They fail to understand personal space and respect for the individual.
Human rights. Did you hear that? The things that our ancestors fought and died for are diametrically opposed to their whole entire belief system.
Is speaking to them about rights, even negative rights. I'm not talking about positive right. Even about negative rights only leads to confusion. They fail to differentiate between negative and positive rights. When taught about negative rights, what will they do? Because remember, the underpinning, the substrata is irrationality and amorality and an absence of values. They glean only the self-serving part of the negative rights. For example, when people are taught about property rights, what do they glean out of it? They learn to protect their property, but fail to recognize rights of others. Women, when they are taught about that rape is a violation, begin to perceive rape in everything and use it as a tool to exploit men. Most of the filed rape cases in India are today fake.
Did the Harvard Stem Cell Institute just find a way to restore crystal clear 20/20 vision?
Who's that sound like? Joy Taylor, who confided in her stylist over there at Fox News that if the people that she was sleeping her way to the top with out her in any way, that she would cry rape. Hearing this man on this particular rape issue and how the majority of the claims are fake makes me question everything about Me Too in this country.
As Indians are introduced to the concept of rights, their minds, instead of getting some sense out of those negative rights, their minds start to shift from focusing on their wretched lives to and accepting their wretched life as fate, start adopting a victim mentality. That's where my grandmom was coming from. So here is the problem with Indians. You cannot teach them anything good until the foundations of morality, rationality, causality, and other Western values have first been laid in their minds. How would you do that job? I don't know how you can do it. Without these foundations, the fruit of the Western civilization only serve to turn their hedonistic tendencies into something more malevolent. Every civilizational fruit, education, Western clothing, prosperity, Western institutions have been perverted in India. The institutions left behind by the British have been hollowed out, become purely predatory and sadistic. This occurred because in post-British India, those in power prize expediency and resource acquisition. Remember, their instinct is all about money and sex. They have no interest in ideas. They have no interest in anything spiritual. They see acquisition of resources as the sole purpose of their lives. Today, India lacks even the vague rule of law that existed before the arrival of Europeans.
Who's this sound like? Kamala Harris.
This is why, in my view, when India...
We dodged a big bullet. We dodged an atom bomb, Negroes.
...has fallen apart, and it will fall apart, and a Taliban-like system comes into exist in India, from the ashes, it will be an improvement on what India is today.
Wow.
I'll continue talking about how the good things that the Western civilization offered to India have been perverted. Without Western missionaries, Christianity has been nourished by Indian superstitions and magical thinking, and has become voodoo. Given the lack of interest in ideas that Indians have, a lack of interest that they have in abstract thinking, grammar is unnecessary to them. English, for most people, have become pidgin. Western education and Western clothing have been adopted purely from a cargo cult mentality. The focus is on obtaining certificates, putting on Western clothes, and they think that is all that matters. The skills behind those certificates is completely immaterial to their minds. They completely fail to see education as a path to intellectual growth or as a means to become better human beings.
And they clearly don't have to in this country, because they'll lie and gaslight our people to make you think these immigrants they're bringing to this country are superior to you. Vis-a-vis why Boeing planes are now falling out the sky. And there's been so many data breaches.
Now, what happens to education applied on a rational mind, which processes information through magical thinking? Education becomes burdensome. It burdens your mind, making educated Indians worse than their uneducated counterparts. They function as rigid cogs, not understanding the meaning and value of their actions. They are micro-compromises in a complex society, may be untraceable, but result in horrible outcomes. I worry about why those MAX 787 fell from the skies and why forest fires are so many these days. I wonder what happened. What is?
You hear him? Did y'all hear that? I'm playing
Compromises in a complex society may be untraceable, but result in horrible outcomes. I worry about why those MAX 787 fell from the skies and why forest fires are so many these days. I wonder what happened, what is behind it. In economics, there's a concept called middle income trap. I prefer to call India's situation low income trap. It will stay here and it will get worse with time. Now let's talk about another Western concept, prosperity. Prosperity has not led to social peace. It hasn't become a platform for intellectual or spiritual growth in that country. Indians do not understand the concept of comforts either, so they cannot use their money for comforts. They build garish houses only to show off to other people and to control those weaker than them. Was the easy prosperity of recent decades, which is essentially a result of Western technological advancements, has disincentivized the pursuit of rationality and morality. So now Indians are actually becoming more irrational and more immoral because they just don't need to. The causality in their minds is functioning the other way. Social media serves as a platform for exchanging myths and superstitions. Today, India is more entrenched in magical thinking and superstitions than it ever was when I was a child. Now, again, another fruit of Western civilization was the institutions. Those Indians elevated to higher positions, become arrogant and sadistic. This behavior stems less from a desire to mask their incompetence and psychological weakness, and more from a genuine belief that arrogance and sadism define power and class. Think about it. They think arrogance and being sadistic is being classy. Additionally, it serves as a mechanism to cope with deep-seated inferiority complex. I talked about the constant brutalizing of people who are weaker, who are in weaker position, and everyone is weaker at some point of time.
If you're turning 65 or beyond, you're going to want to watch this. There are a lot of people today that are Medicare eligible that are enrolling in Advantage plans because
we're almost done.
The wealth that when Indians look at the Western society and when they look at the wealth, it hypnotizes them. They fail to understand the underpinnings of that success because they're only interested in the facade, and that's all they can see. They view the West, they equate Westernization with Hollywood stereotypes: girls wearing short clothing, promiscuity, drinking and using drugs, flaunting wealth, and generally a hedonistic way of life. They see in their souls, they see what their souls want them to see. In Hollywood, India see a reflection of their pre-colonial, pre-Victorian moral hedonic culture. So here is where I conclude my talk, and this is the whole narrative was to come to this conclusion. And the basic issue with understanding the Indian mind is that it is irrational and amoral, and it does not hold any of the Western values like honor, loyalty, dear to itself. They don't understand the concept of truth. They view the universe as arbitrary and engage in magical thinking. They cannot think beyond. Now, this is where animalistic instincts operate. When you don't have civilizational values, animalistic instincts operate. They cannot think beyond sex and money. But this should be expected, and this is why I think that there's a problem with why things cannot change. This is what happens with a society with an IQ of 77. Low IQ people cannot hold any values.
IQ of 77, y'all. But Vivek's ass want to run around here and make it seem as if the Negro is inferior to his people.
In their psyche. Driven by animalistic instincts and expediency, they rationalize everything to serve their materialistic and self-serving purposes. Every Western value given to them has been caricaturized and corrupted to these ends, which is materialism. They have no interest in honor, faith, spirituality, loyalty, truth, or any of the Western values.
And that is who we are. They have no value in the very fabric of the Negro that taught the Europeans all of these value systems, that brought humanity to the European. And that's who they're choosing to flood this country with H-1B visas and multiple six-figure jobs.
They have no 10 commandments. Western people think that 10 commandments just exist in nature. They don't. Civilization does not exist in nature. They are so unaware of these values that they remain oblivious about these values, even if these values are forcefully presented to them. And there's nothing you can do about this except to understand how immigration from India and the rest of the third world will impact the West. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Will negatively impact the West. This is all bad, y'all. You got to know who the enemies are, who they are importing into this country. I'm going to read your comments and then do a declare and decree. I found it. I got to do it now and pray us out. I'll go through and read the pertinent ones, okay? Hi, Easy Axe. Root Trackers, I see you, fam. And Gwen XOXO, Ivy Dreams. So many of our people hate the word Negro. Negro is on my birth certificate. That's why so many people are gravitating toward foundational Black Americans. Well, you know what? Negro is on my birth certificate too. Negro is on the birth certificates of 22 million of us. And so it is what it is. FBA is brand new. And yeah, I don't they're free to fight for whatever identifiers they want. But what I am sharing with us tomorrow is very, very sound in what we must do as a collective. People can identify as FBA all they want. I'm talking about what we need to do as a collective to make sure trillions of dollars funnel to our collective, like the other groups are now getting, that we have been left out of because of flat blackness. So preferably the FBA will see the work that has been done by the Unity for Our Community and jump onto that campaign and be in agreement with doing the call to action that I'll roll out tomorrow, that we need to make go viral to at least the tune of 2 million of us. Easy says, is Mark Muriel an immigrant? Yes, he is. I thought he was Cajun Creole from Louisiana. I know he is married to Michelle Miller, the host of CBS This Morning on Sundays. She is a biracial. Well, to my understanding, he is an immigrant. So, I'll look it up, Easy Axe. Thanks for sharing. Mark Muriel's father, Ernest Muriel, was the first Black mayor of New Orleans. Mark Muriel also became mayor of New Orleans. Thank you, Ray. Yes, that's very true. But I have to, let me explain. When it comes to whether or not these people are Negro or melanated immigrants, they're making it very, very difficult to confirm, because they're now scrubbing the internet to make sure we continue to sheepwalk to the polls and continue to vote for our own economic genocide with them, our own ethnocide with them. So I'm doing a broadcast tomorrow. Damn, I'm not like us. They ain't us. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I do hope you can tune in. It's going to be rich. It's going to be epic, with a call to action on delineation. And I will look up Mark Muriel, but to my understanding, he's immigrant. They're lying about where they descend from, and they're scrubbing the internet, and they're withholding that information because they want our people to continue to stay stuck on identity and respectability politics to our own peril. You would think the government will want to know what happened to us since emancipation. You would think the government will want to know what happened to us since emancipation. The government knows what happened to us because the government did it to us. They've done it. All of this is their 100-year plan. Every last bit of what we're undergoing right now to this date is government driven. So maybe a little bit more clarity on that statement, Ivy Dreams, and I can respond. My daughter told me that Trump removed the ban. She was back on TikTok. I don't think I'm going to tell my daughter. She needs TikTok out of her life so she can focus on her college degree. But that's believable. And I pray that it's true. But I do know it was down for a while. So that's wonderful to know. But you see these demon rats trying to roll back our first A because they want to control the propaganda. They want to gaslight. They want to keep the Negro sheepwalking to the polls to deliver them. And now that we's woke in its proper context, they want to get rid of all the ways in which we defeated them this election cycle. This is really about targeting us. That's what the demon rats want, to replace us as a voter class, okay? They tried it, and we denied it. Okay. There was a rumor that Michelle Miller's father was first doctor to attend Kennedy, the president, when he was shot. Oh, okay. That's not here. Easy says, I have a relative that started working for Wells Fargo in Phoenix about a year ago. She loves it, the money. She knows the history of their racism, but they are the only bank that would hire her. Well, it's not, that's great. I'm really happy for her, but I'm just speaking of what they did. It was a total blackout here. Now you'd be hard pressed to go into any bank, Wells Fargo Bank, that is, and find us. It's been taken over. They've given it to the immigrants. So I'm happy for her. I'm glad she's making her paper. But ask her what percentage of their workforce is Black. I'm the only Negro on my entire team in the OC. Okay? At one of my meetings, I did see an African, but I'm the only one. And to my understanding, to me, the way it looks, it's because one retired. I'm that replacement. So I'm saying that to say that you've got to, in places where we have the stronger numbers, you just simply can't allow them to take this over. You've got to become Chicago Red and fight back, because they are replacing Negroes first and foremost. You'd be hard pressed in places that were predominantly Black down here to see us working. That's grocery stores, that's banking, that's restaurants, that's the mall and retail, the movies. You see mostly Hispanic and other groups working in jobs that we once held down. It's really bad. And if y'all don't fight with everything in you to call this out, to protest against it, it's going to happen to you. And that's my whole thesis. As the nation goes the way of Cali, where are Negroes going and with what? This is a crisis of exponential proportion. And the time to fight is not when it's already on your doorstep. The time to fight is now. Get to your city council meetings. You must fight in the South, because that's going to be it, and that's going to be all. Okay, it's not a rumor. Michelle Miller's late father, Dr. Ross Miller, excuse me, guys, dropped my glasses. Dr. Ross Miller, MD, was the first physician to attend Robert F. Kennedy at the Ambassador Hotel at the assassination in LA in 1968. Wow. Okay, so I thought that, oh, that's Robert F. Kennedy. Okay, wow. Didn't know that. Ivy says, it's sad that FBA and old stock American whites cannot call a truce and fight against foreigners. Well, Ivy Dreams, in some respects, I do believe delivering Trump was our truce. Yep. I do believe that 28% of us who turned out the polls for Trump definitely called a truce to get that done. It wasn't easy, but it was easy for me because I'm living, as you are, you're down here with me, what mass and I don't know what that's about, y'all. Sorry. Mass and illegal immigration have done to the Negro here in this entire state. So it was a no-brainer for me. But for others, it was very, very difficult. That's why a lot of them stayed home. At least they stayed out the way. I still don't believe it's the best strategy. I still believe you need to turn out the vote locally, because that's where politics are really hurting you the most. Black people, we cannot allow this. We have to do something, boycott or something massive. Well, Gwen XOXO, that's what I'm speaking to, that we've got to run for office. We've got to fight. We've got to be at city council meetings. We've got to vote. We cannot sit by while these governors make it illegal to ask for ID to make way for illegals to vote and, put them back in power. That's the one thing we can do, is defeat them every election cycle until They're talking cutting checks instead of studies into perpetuity while they get paid the reparations to do it. Because that's all they want is a big fat check to continue to lie to keep us sheep walking to the polls. Gwen says they're buying up houses in my neighborhood and renting them out. Oh, yes, they are. And they're being given our reparations to be able to do so. They're being helped by the government to do that. They don't come over here with that kind of money. Some of them do, but many of them, like out here, what did Kamala say? Skamala say she wanted to give them a $25,000 down payment. That was only for immigrants. That wasn't for Negroes. So when it's becoming this, you guys are practically out of town. Immigrants contradict themselves about affirmative action. Yes, they do, Michael. Shout out to you. Michael is one of our allies. They absolutely do contradict themselves about it. Now that it's impacting them, they're crying and belly aching about it. You don't see Black folks even crying about this, because those are immigrants crying because they shot themselves in the ass when they fought against the very affirmative action that was helping them to get access to these schools. They got in bed with the racist Ed Bloom to undermine and defeat the Negro. Boomerang. Affirmative action was banned in California in '96 when Prop 209 passed. We have been on our own since then. Correct. And so that was a Negro, Ward Connerly, in bed with the Asians to get rid of affirmative action so that we would not be allowed access and entry to the UCs down here. And our numbers plummeted without it. They know what they're doing. But because affirmative action at large doesn't really benefit us anyway, let it go. And now they're crying in their beer that because the thing they should have been fighting was the legacy organizations. Instead of fighting us, they should have fought legacy, because now they have to get it on merit. They can't lie and scheme and cheat their way through like they used to, because that's exactly what was happening. The Indians aren't exempt. This is what most of these model minorities are doing. While Negroes can't afford to buy their way into the Ivies, we've got to apply ourselves and get accepted based on the very meritocracy they believe that we lack, and are only being accepted into these institutions because we're Black. No, we happen to be Negro and brilliant. That's what it is. That's the part they miss as they propagandize and put us all in some type of idiot bucket that they belong in. I just showed you 5 episodes of the truth of who they really are. The Indians aren't exempt. These people are not model minorities. That's propaganda to believe that you are the stupid one when you clearly never been able to cheat, and everything that sustains America originated from. I don't understand what's happening with all this buffering. I apologize, family. Let me try to get through this. This is a nightmare. I don't know what's going on. Very annoyed to be paying so much for internet and it be buffering. I probably have to do the broadcast from my Ethernet cable next time tomorrow, so we don't have these issues. Okay. Michael goes on to say, Martin Luther King Jr. came to Washington, D.C. to get the check for his people. Yes, he did, Michael, which is why he was murdered. It wasn't just about the Poor People's Campaign. He was coming for that check, as you see in my intro. When we come to Washington, we're coming to get our check. And one of my comrades shared with me that he actually was able to procure funds for the Negro before he was murdered. he couldn't get the word back to us that he had earmarked these funds. And I was also told that that's why Obama and Grace Mean got rid of the Negro identifier, because that is tied to whatever funds Martin Luther King Jr. was able to procure. And when you get rid of the word Negro, now you've got the resources you need to build the Office of New Americas, to replace us with monies that belong to the Negro. You see how that works? Allegedly. You got to say that or they'll shut your videos down and shut your channel down. Michael, I don't know what you mean. Did you get paid at that time? Thanks. I don't know what you're referring to. If you can put it in the chat. As the number of Asian immigrants has increased in America, racism from Asians have increased as well. You're absolutely correct. They will not bring Negro-loving immigrants into this country. The groups they're bringing in here, with some exceptions, Michael, you're one. The immigrants they're bringing in here are very hostile towards the Negro, who made it possible for the POC immigrants to even get into this country after the 65 Immigration Act. Some of you appreciate it. Far too many of you don't. Karens want immigrants because they know that the white population has been declining over time. Correct, Michael? You're absolutely correct. And this is how they do it. They made the Irish white. They made the Italians white. They made the Jews white. They've made Latinos white, Asians white, to keep their numbers going. Because the more numbers you've got, the more benefits you get from the government. Family and friends, biggest enemies. Damn, this happens in most third world countries, especially Africa. Nobody trusts nobody. They are cannibals and turn on each other easily. Absolutely easy acts. Correct. That's what I want to show y'all. Everything that we are is diametrically opposed to who they are. We're not the same. They ain't us. And I hope that, this 5-part series has opened your eyes to who these people are, so that we can get more people fighting for our lineage to flourish in the country of our ancestors. It was bad enough when it was just the Europeans. Now all the Crayola immigrants are in here, just piling on. I can't believe this Indian is telling these truths. And these are the type of people coming here. Indian caste system is beyond borders, not just in India. Correct. I was so thankful. I can't recall who shared it on X, but my hair was blown completely back to see that one of their own was telling the truth. And you saw a room full of white folks that they were telling that truth too. This country is on the precipice of becoming third world. And y'all need to stay ready so you ain't got to get ready for it. I'm sounding the alarm. This is unbelievable. This guy must be hated in India for revealing these things about Indian culture. Go to YouTube and watch video of Indian unsanitary street food. Rats everywhere. Oh my God. I don't think I can stomach it. At the top of the broadcast, I showed you an Indian woman who shared at a TED Talk that over 500 million of them defecate in the streets. That's bigger than our entire country. Can you imagine? That's 200 million more than our entire country. So just think about Americans, this entire nation, defecating in the street. And this is the mindset he's trying to impart to us that is being brought into this country. These are the people that Negroes are now having to ask for jobs from, sitting across from in interviews. They don't give a damn about their own. How much less do they think of the Negro? This is bad, y'all. I hope he talks about the skin bleaching in India and in Africa. Easy acts. And in Africa, it is out of control. Indians have been influenced by white supremacy. Well, isn't this who Hitler learned how to be Hitler from? The U.S.? And its mistreatment of the Negro? This guy will need a bodyguard protection when he goes back to India. I don't think he can go back to India. I don't think he wants to go back to India. I wonder how many other immigrants are the same or similar. Africans, the ones that call us Akata, the ones who are taking over in our narratives in theater, television, and film. All the while complaining that they're not being paid enough. Well, you came into this country to undermine what our actors were being paid. He majorly exposed them, and I'm glad. Because we need to know, especially the Negro, the soft-hearted Negro, putting everybody on the tit, thinking everybody deserves a chance, thinking everybody is you because they got your skin tone. Well, I understand. You want to trauma bond with people who don't give a damn about you. Those are the only ones in this country that would eat your young. They don't give a damn that you can't find work. They don't give a damn that you suffer the highest rates of homelessness and evictions and joblessness. While you continuously make space for them and fight your own Negro people as to why we're up in arms and are anti the government's weaponization of immigration against us to our economic genocide. I hope he's fighting for cash payment reparations for Black American freedmen of chattel slavery. Who? That man ain't fighting for us. He's just telling us who they're importing in this country and what this country is on the precipice of becoming. Had y'all voted for Skamala, we'd be on a fast track to becoming India. I think Mark's people were here before 1899. Well, if anybody has any data on that, I'm open to it. Getting paid in terms of working at General Motors before graduating from, oh yes, we were paid. We were paid. We went to school 2 weeks and we worked 2 weeks, 11 months out of the year. And it was a paid position. And when I would come back summers from college, I worked in the plant. So I went from the office to the plant to put together and assemble brakes. It was paid quite well during the summers at General Motors. Yes. Wow. I was watching the Richmond, Virginia news. A lot of Indians are in power, such as the mayor. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Scary now that you know who they are. Taken over and being given it by the European wanton white supremacist, okay? Woo, child, I got through those comments. Let me do my declare and decree right now before I pray us out. Now, you can write this declaration or, listen silently with me, but I'm going to be doing this at the close of every broadcast because we need protection. So this is the first declaration that you're going to be writing, burning, and releasing. I got this from Shavi Zane. Shout out to her. She has a great spiritual channel on ScrewTube. I declare and decree that the highest form of righteous judgment is served over all corrupt beings of the government, judicial system, including the police. I modified this, including the police officers, child protective services, judges, attorneys, FBI agents, the CIA, and all personnel working for the U.S. corporation with 3 Ks with wicked intentions. All hidden corruption and agendas are now destroyed forevermore in spirit and in flesh, in sleep and in awakened states across all timelines, realms, and dimensions known and unknown. Now, if you decide to burn it, as you watch it go up into flames, give thanks to the Most High God for granting you the power and the authority to bring down this judgment, and then call on your entire spiritual team, which is the ancestors, to come in and assist you with establishing things in spirit and in flesh, the desires of your heart. After you've done the burning and releasing, you're going to write this down on a candle with a permanent marker. Then we will need to fill that vacuum that's been created with affirming what we want to experience. In addition to the aforementioned righteous judgment, you can write this down in your journal. So, all corruption of the U.S. corporation and the police force is now exposed, and justice for all wicked deeds and hidden acts, none and unknown, is now exposed and being punished and established in spirit and in flesh, in sleep and in awakened states, across all timelines, realms, and dimensions, known and unknown. And so it is. It's a lot to write down, but please consider the impact we will have as spiritual giants on behalf of ourselves, our offspring, and our ancestors. Will be well worth the time it takes to do this exercise. Okay? So, family, I think I'm going to save the video for tomorrow. Damn, and not like us, they ain't us. The one that I want to show you that is going to tickle you, I'm going to play it at the top of the broadcast. Take my chances. But I want to thank you so very much for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for my episode, Damn, and Not Like Us, They Ain't Us. Okay, that broadcast will be brought to you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Take this information and apply it in your experience. You're equipped. Each one teach one. Okay, make these videos go viral. I'm being shadow banned. Bless the broadcast if you feel so compelled. Thank you in advance. And with that being said, let me pray us out and put a covering and protection over us, that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. I never get your notices when you are going live. I know, Easy Acts. I know, honey. Many people have been complaining, but do know that I'm shadow banned. What I generally do is I post before I go live on X, Facebook, and on ScrewTube. This upcoming weekend, I won't be live. I've got a retreat with my church to attend, Ministry Development Weekend. So I will not be here this weekend. After tomorrow's broadcast, you won't see me again till the following Saturday. So I apologize in advance, but I'm definitely being shadow banned, and there's not much I can do about it. Okay, back to my prayer protection, that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever Negro descendants are, and our allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until we meet again tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening, family. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to continue to believe for each and every one of us a ton of peace, love, and reparations, family. Thank you again for tuning in. I so appreciate you. Good night.